I'd give people great health insurance, the best of your ability. I'd help them save for a secure retirement, and I'd give them a healthy amount of time off. Get the big three right:
Mm-hmm.
health, wealth, time off. Most companies really want to do the best they possibly can for the people.
Most. Yeah.
In all the inflation and all the craziness of the world and all the competitive pressures, most companies really want to do right by their people. And that makes my job exciting.
Welcome to the podcast, where we introduce you to incredible humans who share their journeys with the mission to inspire you to harness your own inner tenacity to drive your life and career forward. And now, your host, Adam Posner.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast, where I bring the best and the brightest in the world of business, marketing, and personal growth to help you harness your inner tenacity and drive your career forward. Folks, my guest today is Jeff Williams, a global leader in HR and business transformation who has driven growth at some of the industry's biggest names. Jeff is now president and CFO at Aptia and helping shape one of the company's most critical business lines. Benefits, we'll get to that. Previously, Jeff served as vice president of enterprise and HR solutions at Paychex, where he led a $1.5 billion P&L, helped the company become America's market share leader in HR services, and drove record revenue across mid-market and global operations. And his career spans leadership roles at Alight Solutions, Aon, ADP, and global telecom giants, earning him a reputation as a world-class builder of markets, revenue, client relationships, and excellence. We have a lot to get to. Jeff is here. I'm here. Let's get to it. Jeff, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Adam. Boy, I sound fancy, don't I? This is going to be great.
Everyone says that, Jeff. So before the show, I give Jeff a little preview of where we're going to go. But there's one thing I always like to ask, especially as senior leaders like yourself. We're going to get into your career trajectory. But if you don't mind me asking, Jeff, what did your parents do for a living?
So my dad was a self-made man. He was the youngest of 8 kids in a 3-bedroom house. And he went from a sort of a post-war drafting apprentice to be CEO of that same company 33 years later. So I grew up in that house. Mom was a homemaker, kept us in line. And, I was born Canadian and raised American. So I had a chance to live in both countries, but grew up in a nuclear family home with fantastic parents who built a great life and who I'm very, very grateful to.
I love that story of your dad, 33. I mean, we don't get that anymore. The times have changed. The workplace has changed.
Yeah, sorry about that. I mean, he really felt like the last of that greatest generation crowd we hear about, right? The high school educated, the ability to start, as an apprentice. And then, he had the salesman's bar in the back of his Chrysler as he drove around Ontario selling compressors and spray guns and other industrial equipment. And yeah, a bunch of years later, he was running that company, spent his whole life with it, and was as married to that place as he was, for sure.
What was one of those early lessons that you learned from your dad, looking back on it now? Business-wise.
I learned you got to eat fast. So when you're the youngest of 8 kids, you got to eat quickly, right? So I'd watch my dad scarf down food. And to this day, like, my wife will be like, "Can you slow down?" So I learned to eat quickly in case others got to my food. But in all seriousness, I think I learned about the value of hard work. My dad didn't live long enough to see my career, and I know he would have loved it. And I think I probably became more of him than he ever would have expected. But he died when I was 19 years of age. So I learned about the value of hard work. I also learned about the value of good humor. My dad always had a smile on his face, always had a joke to crack, always had a friendly elbow in someone's ribs. And I think I've become that too.
I love that tribute to your father, and he's looking down from above, knowing that you're doing him proud there. So how did you get into the people business, Jeff? How did people fall into the people business?
Yeah, I spent the first half of my career in technology and telecommunications. And so you can argue every business is a people business, but most specifically, it was in 2008, and ADP was looking for a leader to run their Canadian operations. And I was fortunate enough to be selected. And, that company had such an incredible history of performance and growth, and arguably invented the SaaS business. Yep. So I wondered to myself at the time, could I actually succeed in a company that was that successful? And they've been wildly successful before and they've been wildly successful since. But I'd like to think that it was an incredible entry point for me into the human capital business. And I really have never really left it since as a result.
Yeah, I love that story. When you talk about ADP's success, I mean, they're setting the bar pretty high to begin with. When you were bringing people into your team and onto your team, how did, like, listen, by the time someone got to you in the interview process, you had to assume that they've already passed a couple of screenings. They have the experience, they have the resume there. But how do you level set to ensure they're at the caliber that ADP is looking for?
Yeah, it's a bar I've tried to hold myself to, Adam, as I've recruited before and then during and then after that is I'm looking for a couple things. I'm looking for people whose reach extends beyond the outer limits of their gifts. So people who have ambition, people who have tenacity, people who have independent drive. I'm looking for people who really want to be something. I'm also looking for a diverse set of skills and experiences. People who are a complement to the existing team. And then largely, I'm looking for people who are better than me in one form or another, in one area or another. People that I can learn from, and people that I can grow through as a leader. This may not be great for all the behavioral interview folks out there, but I'm also looking for people I have great instincts are going to be successful in the role. I've found whenever I've hired in the face of those instincts and maybe not trusted myself on those instincts, those haven't gone as well. That's not a scientific study, it's just my own intuition about
Right.
developing a great feel for fit, congruence, excellence, performance, those kind of things.
You said something really interesting that I think is a cornerstone to leadership that I've heard as a common thread through so many interviews with senior level folks like yourself. The self awareness to hire people who are better, smarter than you in certain areas that you're not, right? Isn't that such a key fundamental piece for leadership?
Yeah, I think every leader has a responsibility, and it's like the campsite rules, right? Leave it better than you found it. In order to do that, you have to create some sort of succession for yourself. Like you
Hmm.
got to make yourself dispensable. It's a fundamental responsibility of leading, I think. And if I'm not hiring people that are better than me, am I building the right organization structure in behind me? It's the simple stuff. Can I take a vacation? And does the place hold together? I used to
Could I
think,
check
oh my
out?
God, I can't possibly go away for 2 weeks. The place will disintegrate, and thinking that was some tribute to me. It's a terrible tribute to me. I need to find people who can make the place better than I ever did.
Let me just ask you a question. I'm not trying to date you here, but I assume you've
No,
worked in
go
an
for
age before email was the standard. How the hell did we ever communicate in an office before email? And I'm old enough. I'm almost 47. I remember the days of putting memos with the Manila folders with the little strings on it. But like, how is communication changing during your career? How have you seen it progress?
So
Has
I'll
email
date
ruined us
myself.
or made us better?
We had a 286, but I worked on a 386 when I first got into the workforce. So that'll probably date me. I think that we invested more in each other as people, in togetherness, and that was during work, and
And
that was after work, and that was building lifelong friendships, and that was intermarrying with our colleagues. I just think that before all this electronic gadgetry happened, we got to know each other deeply face to face.
So, I mean, in the wake of COVID, a lot of companies going remote, kind of work from home, remote being the thing. Have we lost that, or is this just an evolution of technology in the modern workplace? I mean, there's a give and take to it all. What's your take?
What layer of complexity do you want to go to on that one? I mean,
Let's go freaking
I
deep,
don't know
Jeff.
that
Let's
I've
get let's get
ever.
into it. This wasn't even
Yeah,
on my dance card, but let's go. Let's
let's
tango.
do this. So in no particular order, right? Global disruptive pandemic. Everybody goes home. Everybody. I haven't met a company yet who declared COVID a failure, in the sense of we got home over a long weekend. Everything worked. We were really proud of ourselves, and so many companies I work with tell that story like it's the same story, and it's
Right.
amazing what we can do when we really have to. So there's that. Then we had this massive productivity spike that went with that because nobody had anything else to do.
I'll just
We
work.
had this we had these competing forces of, wow, I think my costs have gone down a little, but man, there's this huge inflationary pressure that's starting to occur. And then as it went on and on and on and on, all these isolation aspects started to take hold. People relocated away from
Hmm.
the work that they had known, had kind of made an independent decision that they were going to be where they were going to be because remote work was here to stay. And then we saw this explosion of mental health issues associated maybe directly, maybe indirectly, you pick with this isolation. So here we sit 5 years later, and what's happened? Many companies have tried to bring people back physically with varying degrees of success. Many companies have tried to differentiate based on remote, I think with varying degrees of success. Our studies would suggest that what used to be maybe 1 in 5 workers in the workforce having mental health issues, maybe those numbers are closer to 1 in 3. And we've got a forever changed American and global workforce. And I don't know where it all goes from here. I think I'd be presumptive to forecast it. I think I have a couple of ideas, but boy, has it ever really
I,
changed on a number of levels. I'm not sure what's cause and effect, Adam. I'm not that smart, but boy, oh boy, has the workforce changed.
yeah, I'm seeing a few things out there. One, how it's affecting younger workers, and as an in the trenches recruiter, it surprises me daily. And I don't know why I'm surprised anymore. But so many young folks want to work in an office. They're yearning for it. They want that connection. And I go back to when I started, at a college in the early 2000s. That experience was invaluable. The ability to sit with a team and learn through osmosis and observe how the senior leaders would operate in the advertising industry, how they would command a room, how they would present. That's something I would aspire to. And now you're doing it over Zoom, and now you're being distracted. It's a different way of learning. Good, bad, ugly, different sides of it too. So that's one group that I am concerned about. Now, the concern could also be just morphing into a new way of working, a new way of learning. But the onus is really on the company to train well and the employees to really be present and to take it seriously. But then you layer on top of this dissolving of loyalty because companies are letting people go all the time, and employees are like, I'm gonna be here and I'm gonna do my job, and that's it. What are you seeing in that regard in the younger workforce?
I completely agree. On a micro level, my daughter, who's done internships the last couple of years, had some remote work and had some in-person work, and I watched up close and personal how much she flourished in one versus
Mm,
not as much in the other. Uh, that's a micro example. On a macro example, I completely agree with you. I do believe that the generation entering the workforce, I'm more optimistic when I see how much they are looking for and expecting more of an in person experience. And again, it's back to the earlier discussion we were having around who do you hand the company to? You're going to hand
mm.
it to people you've only met on the screen who live in a state you're not quite sure, or you're going to hand it to the person that you've been working hand in hand with for a number of years, who's had a chance through osmosis, through informal conversations, through direct mentoring, to have been able to learn and grow next to you and grow with a cohort of people who are really invested. Because I think you're onto a
Hmm.
great point. That fabric of loyalty relative to the American corporation has really changed, and I think there's an opportunity to rekindle that. And I think in person work can be a way to do that.
Absolutely. And the other piece I want to double back to is the mental health and wellness. It was a very big assumption, especially during the pandemic, that everybody wanted to work. I mean, right at the end of the pandemic, that when companies were returning back, that no, I want to work from home. It's a tremendous assumption that everybody has a equal and productive physical location and environment to work in at home. I take it for granted. I live out here in the suburbs of Long Island. I have an office. I have an extra bedroom. I have a quiet place. But there was so many people who either don't have the physical place to work, their kids taking care of elderly, single only parents that have young children at home that are distracting them. That's affecting their productivity and ultimately their performance at work. And I really don't think that's something that we factor into. And I think that's another piece that's driving some folks to look for in office because that's where they're most productive. Is that something you've even thought about or seen?
It is like, what is sitting behind this virtual screen I have here advertising my company, right? It could be anything.
Right.
And in global workforces as well, which I've been working with through the pandemic, what is really sitting in behind that, and how much of that individual's attention do you have, and how focused are they versus what they have to deal with on the home front? Absolutely, we see this for sure.
It's tremendous. So let's shift gears a little bit. What attracted you to Aptia?
The opportunity to build something unique and great and lasting. I had an opportunity at a company that became a carve out of Aon. So I was with a company called Alight, and I went with the carve out, one of the founding executives of that organization, and had that experience of doing that work and building that company. And when this opportunity came along, it was a chance to take some of those really incredible experiences I had and apply it in a new setting, in a more complete role, with the chance to build something that I felt could be really differentiated in the industry that we have, and build, a company together with the leaders I work with in a vision I had for what greatness may look like, and to do so in a mission driven way. And on a personal front, it formalized something that has been a part of my life for a long time, which was commuting to the U.S. from Canada. And lo and behold, I got a chance to live and work in the same country as my family,
Finally.
who moved with me to Boston on this venture. So that part of it was great too. It had all of these professional elements that felt like
Mm.
a culmination of many things I had done in my career, but also this personal congruence of I could bring everybody with me on the adventure. So that part of it was
Load up the U-Haul, kids. We're moving south. We're moving.
great. Yeah,
We're moving. And Boston is such a great
that's
city.
right.
I'm a New Yorker, as you can see by my hat here. I'm a New Yorker that loves Boston. I am a Mets fan, and I'm also a Red Sox fan because they say the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? So I love Boston. I love the Red Sox. I'm not a huge Patriots fan, but you know what? Us New York Giants, we own them
Yeah.
in the Super Bowl. So there's a lot of loyalty there. But Jeff, what was that biggest opportunity you saw in this new role that really attracted you to take on that
I
challenge?
had to do the sports thing first. The worst
Okay.
part about living in Boston is the sports teams. Like, I've spent my whole life rooting against Boston teams, and I love New York too. So there's a little bit of me that says,
That's
"Oh
tough.
God, when I hear the Red Sox and Patriots stuff, I just want to crawl under my desk." But anyway, you asked a more important question,
Yes,
which I
slightly.
completely forget what it was since I got on sports. I think what you were asking me is what's it actually like now, and how do I like it here? Is that
Yeah,
what
more
you're
so. What you know? What was that big opportunity that you saw immediately that you wanted to take on that big challenge?
building the best benefit services and administration company in America? I wasn't necessarily that ecstatic about building the biggest, but I felt like we could do three things. I felt like we could build something that the clients loved more than any other company, that our employees were excited about working at, and that could be a high performing company within the portfolio in which I operate, which is for Bain Capital, and that we could do all of that while being good to the communities in which we live and we work. And we're kind of in this we're in this peace of mind business, Adam, where for our clients, we're giving them the peace of mind that we're taking good care of their employees. For the employees, we want to make sure they know the best possible choices for their benefits, and they're confident in those choices, and they're taking care of their family. They can be focused at work. And then for our partners who distribute our products, that they have the confidence and the peace of mind to recommend us, and we won't let anybody down. We're really, really good at what we do. And I felt like we could build that into something really, really special.
I love that take there. And Jeff, let's just talk about benefits for a little bit too. And
Yeah.
when I'm recruiting and I'm at the offer stage, the smart candidates, I call them the smart candidates, and depending what stage you are in life, I give them a little bit of leeway, but how important benefits are to them and how that well-rounded benefits and benefits and keep me straight here is all inclusive. That could be financial benefits, health and wellness, different types of insurance, other ancillary benefits too. And the companies that position it well as your total
Yeah.
comp and structure that into the early part of the conversation sooner than later, That's a huge selling point, and I think that's lost on a lot of companies on why that's such a critical, because it's a tremendous cost, right? Like how do you break it down and work with companies on positioning from a candidate attraction perspective and an employee
Yeah.
engagement perspective?
Yeah, I think on the candidate attraction perspective, there we see organizations who capitalize on and who miss opportunities to position benefits. So understanding where your benefits are competitively, if you're hunting within an industry, really understanding where your competitors are in that's not tough information to find out. Or if you're hunting across a function, like you want a data analytics expert, knowing what
Right.
the best data analytics firms are doing. I think that's people get really focused on the salary number at point of sale for a candidate. And I think there's an opportunity to widen the aperture and say, wait a second, this is a total rewards conversation.
Yes.
So this is your fixed pay. These are your benefits. This is your time off. This is your short-term incentive. This is your long-term incentive if you have it. Like, I think as a recruiter or as a hiring organization, making sure you're having a full scope conversation and not just zeroing in on the fixed pay number every semi-monthly paycheck is a really important thing to think more about as you're in late stages of securing candidates. And then from
So
the employee experience
right.
perspective, making those benefits accessible, understandable, being able to get help quickly when you need it, and having that help be accurate, whether that be human or phone or web. Like, I think there's a real opportunity to bring benefits to the forefront. Probably 6 or 7 out of 10 of your employees don't understand the benefits available to them. And then, 5 or 6 out of 10 don't believe that those benefits meet their needs.
Mm.
So being clear about where you stand, what you're giving as benefits, how those fix competitively, and how to play those back to your employees so they better understand the fullness of their rewards is an undersold position for many employers.
I completely agree, and I always love when employees are like, "I didn't know that we had veterinary care. I didn't know that I had a robust care. I didn't know that there was all these ancillary benefits that you don't think about." But they really hit home on a lot of more folks than you think. I mean, the pet insurance one that I've seen offered sometimes is I've seen it be a closer. I've seen it be a closer. You know, if someone has a elderly pet, little
Second
things go
most
a long way.
popular, second most popular voluntary benefit for people under 35 in our experience now
Fun fact.
is pet insurance, and that wasn't even a category a decade ago.
That's crazy. So let's talk a little bit about Optia One, investing
Yeah.
heavily in it. It's not just a platform, but keep me straight here, but the future of how benefits admin is delivered. How do you describe its value in a world where employees expect seamless, customer grade experiences?
Yeah, for us, it's really about making that employment experience simple, straightforward, AI led, but again, coming out of it with I made the best possible choices I could based on my own experience, my own needs, and benchmarked against others. So that's the employment experience we're trying to create. And we can deliver that across any channel. We can deliver it over the phone. We can deliver it over the web. We can deliver it in very natural language queries. So for the employee, it's about one place to go to understand and to consume benefits and the rituals every year, like enrolling and doing life events and all those sorts of things. For our
Just making it
clients,
seamless, right? Make it easy.
yeah. For our clients, making sure that they understand what their people are doing, what they're selecting, how they're consuming those benefits, and being able to get access to that information quickly in ways that we've been promising on this AI journey for a while now. It's as simple as instead of writing some complex query, just writing a natural language question of how
Hey,
many
what do I need?
people
Yeah.
enrolled in benefits last week, or how many life events have I had in the last 6 months? Are the people who enrolled in critical illness insurance staying more than people who didn't? Are those people? So it's the ability to kind of know and understand what's going on in your environment. And again, for our partners who are distributing it, being able to see all of their clients and understand what's going on in their book and making them more effective as benefit brokers. we're trying to manage all those stakeholders and answer the needs we've heard over and over again about what's missing in their benefits experience. So cloud native, AI fueled and driven, simple experiences for all parties, but we believe with a lot of depth and very, very data driven.
Hey everybody, Adam here from the Podcast. Today's podcast is brought to you by the team at Fountain. Fountain is your full-service frontline workforce management platform. I have to tell you, Fountain's offerings are some of the most robust I've seen for any product in the space. They offer full solutions for hiring, managing, and retention. They are truly a one-stop shop focused on the frontline workforce. They also create informative content using their data. For example, they analyze a bunch of data from their fast food chains and created a trend report you could download now on their website. They also have a new ebook out called Frontline Voices. There's a lot to dive into. Certainly check it out. And you could learn more at fountain.com, linked in the show notes. Thank you. Interesting. Jeff, how have you as a leader had to upskill your own AI knowledge? And how'd you go about that? No one says it's going to be easy.
Adam, I've always felt like I had to outwork everybody around me. And that was when I was a sales rep, how many cold calls did I have to make? You know, when I was customer service VP for the first time, what the heck's an Erlang table and diving into that? You know, when I first got into the payroll business, how do you actually get from gross to net? Like I've had maybe not the most healthy relationship with what I felt like were my own deficiencies. So I've always poured myself into that. So on the AI front, it's just consuming everything I can on the topic and trying to learn on the fly and staying hyper relevant to where I know the markets are headed. So I have some knowledge about AI. I have some opinions about AI, and I'm trying to learn from the smart people about AI and trying to apply what I've known and seen before at different times like this, when it seems like something has completely overtaken the business consciousness on every level. And how do I apply those lessons of having been here before a few times to what is going to happen in the months and years ahead?
Right. And AI is not going anywhere. I mean, how have you and the team utilized the learnings from AI to optimize the product?
I'd say in a few ways. And again, I keep coming back to the solving simple problems in basic ways, or solving basic problems in simple ways, I think is the elegance of mass appeal from a product perspective. So for us, it's about leveraging these technologies to make the journey more simple, not more complicated. So whether it's, again, the practitioner who needs to know more information about the population, or the individual who's trying to figure out, is it Aetna or the Blues or Cigna this period, and why? What's the high deductible plan? Really trying to leverage these complex technologies to make things more simple. I would say the interesting part of all of this is trying to not too aggressively AI wash the business. Like I think there's some claims out there of companies that are AI fueled that I am experiencing, and I ain't experiencing any AI. So the last thing I want to be is the guy who's overstating where we are on AI. We're doing real things with real use cases that we believe drive real benefits. But I don't want anybody to think that Aptia is AI panacea, where frankly, I don't know if anybody has to. We're in a business where you have to be 100% accurate 100% of the time, and silence can be a standing ovation.
Right. You don't want to script someone's benefit.
AI is not ready to deliver at scale in some of that yet. And we have to be really thoughtful and careful about how we use it and make sure it's ready to deliver 100% of the time, 100% accurate.
Right. And AI is not always gospel. The output is not always gospel, and you have to, trust and verify. So it's interesting. Like, many leaders talk about transformation, but few actually execute it. What is that biggest misconception people have about what it really takes to transform an organization at a global scale?
Biggest misconception. Maybe the biggest misconception is that most people are excited about it. I think that if you think about the top, whether it's the top 20% of your population that's driving 80% of your results, or I've seen other studies that say the top 1% of your population are driving a quarter of your results. Like, I think those people are generally into it and want to be a part of it and want to be part of the change. But you have the vast majority of think of an organization who are pretty tied to the work they do and how they do it, and may not feel the level of transformation that you expect them to, and may not be as enlisted in it as you want them to be. So I think a little bit of that, we just think transformation is good as business leaders because we see the benefits of it. But translating that into the people who serve your clients every day and serve each other inside your business every day, like assuming you've just brought them along because you've declared it, I think
Right.
is a misconception and probably an underinvested area of change.
Interesting. So let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk
Yeah.
about, culture and service and philanthropy. That's something that you and the team take a lot of pride on. And you've always blended business leadership with community leadership. You've been on
Mhm.
charitable boards, leading DEI at
Yeah.
previous companies, and even even chairing a record-breaking United Way campaign, right? Like, where does that commitment to service come from, Jeff?
Oh man, I've been so lucky to do what I do and to do it with the people I get to do it with, and to have an opportunity to actually take all of that and pour it into making a difference. I don't know. I haven't done anything that great, but when I do
Everything
it, I
helps.
feel like a more complete human being, a better leader, and I feel energized by the opportunity to do something for someone other than myself and the people around me. Doing something for the community just feels like both an obligation and a reward for this life.
I love that. And Aptia Serves has become such an important expression of culture within your organization.
Yeah.
What role do you believe corporate philanthropy plays in shaping belonging, engagement, and a shared purpose inside an organization?
It's varied in the organizations I've worked with. So, I've been in organizations who had one cause, like at Paychex, we were all about the United Way. And I was just really, really fortunate to have served as a chair there. But I've also been in organizations who were very hyper local, and that really served to fuel togetherness and commitment at a local level. I don't think there's any magic answer. I think you hit on it earlier in the pod, though, that people want to work for companies increasingly who are more balanced in their worldview, who view success across many lenses, not just financial, but in the way we treat the earth, in the way we treat humanity, and in the way we treat the future, that I think is really important. So I think on average, people want to work for companies that have a soul. And I think that being a company that can be congruent between the profit objective and the community objective, the development objective with the giving back objective, like, I just think again, it's about
A
being a holistic entity
good human.
and allowing people to find their whole selves at work.
I completely agree with you. And so many candidates say to me, I'm looking for a mission or value driven led company one way or another, right? That it's not just transactional. Listen, some people are fine with that. And other people want more because it really is a blend. I mean, your work, it's harmony, like work life. I don't say work life balance, I say work life harmony. And a lot of people do want to enjoy where they work and they do want to believe in the company and the causes that they support. And that goes a long way from an employer branding and a candidate experience perspective, too. And they really have to practice what they preach, right? And it's not just words, but it's actions. And candidates are savvy enough, employees are savvy enough to know when it's happening and when it's not. So let me ask you, how do you stay personally grounded while leading at such a high level, like where the stakes are big, responsibilities are nonstop? How do you find that harmony, Jeff?
Oh, that's a good
What's your
one.
Zen? What's your Zen secret
I'm a
here?
work I'm a work in progress. I think I've had significant life defining events that have fueled that. I'll pick one. I've talked about it. I've talked about it openly before, And so I'll tell you the story and your listeners. We headed, coming out of 2018, 2019, we noticed some swelling on my 13-year-old son's shoulder, which turned out to be a very large tumor. It was osteosarcoma, and anyway, after 8 months of chemotherapy, after surgery to remove his upper arm and replace it with his leg bone. I didn't even know I had two leg bones. I don't know if you knew you had two leg bones, but there's two bones down there. And one of them became his upper arm. And the impact of that experience on me as, first and foremost, a father, and as a husband, and as a human, it was profound. Now Kevin's okay today, and we're very grateful for that. He's
Great.
6 years
Amen.
cancer free now, and we headed right from that cancer in the pandemic. So what did I learn? What did I learn through that? I learned about the power of perseverance as I watched him fight it. I learned about how important it is to be around people that you care about and work on things that matter. I learned that it's really, really, really vital to care deeply about what you do. And I try and carry those. There's a lot of other things I learned about life through being the father of a teenager with cancer, but you kind of look back in your life and you think, geez, there's probably 3 or 4 things that shaped me more than others. The most recent example of what shaped me more than anything is that battle we had, and how it fueled what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be for the rest of my life.
That really hits home. I'm 1 month in remission. I just finished my own battle with cancer, with Hodgkin's lymphoma, and your words are deeply resonating with me. And I'm shaking my head as you're saying this, because it does transform you. And there are those silver linings when you personally go through something like this. And first and foremost, I'm so happy to hear that Kevin's doing well. Cancer fucking sucks, pardon my French. It's terrible and it destroys so many people and so many lives. But if we could take a step back and look at those silver linings and those moments that help us become better humans, that's really what it's all about, right? Like we're all in this thing together. How do we learn? How do we grow? And how do we move forward and just be better versions of ourselves through traumatic times?
I am very pleased to hear about your remission, Adam. I think the best of life is ahead.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you had to go through what you've gone through, but man, I am rooting for you, and I am excited for you. And
I appreciate it.
Yeah. May you have all the health and happiness as you tackle the next stage with all the knowledge you have
Yes.
about how grand life is.
It is. It changes your perspective. And if we recorded this a month ago, there was no beard here. There was no eyebrows. And I mean, the physical changes, you probably saw with your son. I mean, he was 13 at the time. I don't know if he had a beard at the time, but there's other things that really change and affect you. So back on track here, business wise.
Well,
so
just one
please.
Story that quickly before.
Absolutely. Please.
So he, actually 2 things. And I started to learn it. Though with the hair. So we took him and we got his hair dyed because we knew his hair was going to fall out. We took him to get his hair dyed, and everybody in the barbershop kind of knew, and we all talked about how great he looked. And I know one thing about the world now that I didn't know before. There are certain things in the world that everybody is lined up to fight, and childhood cancer is one of them. And in this really weird way, if you want to feel incredibly good about the future of the planet, wheel around a kid who's 13 years old, who's completely bald. Like, do that, because the world is 100% lined up to fight childhood cancer. And I've experienced nothing before it or nothing like it since, where I felt every force in the universe wanted that cancer out of my kid.
Absolutely. And it's so crazy too. I look back on it, and luckily, and I'm saying this from a very interesting perspective, that when I went in for my Friday treatments, that the children they treated were on Tuesdays, because I don't know if I could have handled that as a father of two.
It's brutal, man.
No, and I
The
remember there
stories
was
of
one Friday there was a kid in there for whatever scheduling reasons, whatever, and I was literally walking to go to the bathroom in the middle of chemo, and I saw out of the corner of my eye, and I just stopped and I lost it. But I knew that that kid was in the best place, and I was praying for him and that he would be okay. But it's perspective; it really, really is. So let's keep the personal stuff going here,
yeah.
Jeff. Jeff, what's keeping you up at night these days?
Those same kids. He's got a twin sister. Her name's Sabrina. She's at school. Kevin's working, but it's them, right? I used to be really interesting at him. My wife and I lived in Europe for a spell, and we had the time of our lives there.
I
I
bet.
had a incredible worldview. I was interesting. Now I'm like, it's my work, it's my kids. I go to the gym. Like, what
Good.
keeps me up at night is doing well by everyone around me. I think, as you know, as a father, right? And once you kind of do that, the world ain't really about you anymore. And that's been
Oh,
a tremendous leadership lesson to me. So it's about how do I do the best I can? How do I balance the best I can? How do I deliver for my family, my business, my community, my friends? Like, how do I make all of that work? Am I a good enough custodian of all of that? Am I a steward for all of that? And how can I'm still chasing. I'm still chasing. I'm
we
not as
never
young as I
stop.
used to be, but man, I'm still chasing.
And there's different seasons of ourselves, different versions of ourselves. And I tell everybody who is expecting their first child that the second that first child is born, life is not about you anymore. And if you don't change in that moment, then you better do it quickly, because
Yeah.
it's not gonna go in the right direction. Jeff, what's exciting you about the world of benefits, people? Like, are we going in the right direction here in the workplace overall? I know the world's a scary, ever-changing place. There's so many external threats, internal threats challenging us. But how do we stay on track here and keep the focus on people in the workplace?
Yeah, maybe a worldview thing, and then maybe a benefit specific thing. If I get too wrapped up in the worldview thing, remind me about the benefits one.
I'll just go like
I've
this with my
been
watch.
really.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, we've got to stop at
we're
some
good.
point.
We're good.
The I've had the opportunity to travel a couple million miles around the world over my career, and one thing that gives me such an incredible amount of optimism is no matter where I go, the world is a beautiful place, and there are beautiful people trying to do better for their family and their community and their company. We all want the same things no matter where I go, and that gives me a tremendous amount of optimism. No matter what culture I'm in, no matter what the language is, I find all of that harmony, and I find great people wherever I go, no matter where I go. So that part really emboldens me. For benefits, I'd say that if I was giving advice to people who are evaluating these things, budgeting these things, I'd do three things first. I'd give people great health insurance, the best of your ability. I'd help them save for a secure retirement, and I'd give them a healthy amount of time off. Like, get the big three right:
Mm-hmm.
health, wealth, time off. Like, let's
Time.
build around those things, and we can help you. Others like us can help you figure that out, how to manage all the inflationary pressure of all of that and get the most out of it. But do those things and then experiment. It's like a stock portfolio. Find your core holdings and then invest in things that matter to your population. So if you have, I'm making it up, if you have menopausal age women, consider a new category of benefits around menopause. If you have a
Yep.
millennial population, they might like pet insurance more than others. Like, if you're in a not for profit, how do people use benefits to give back? Just think about what plays in your population. There's lots of good advice out there. There's good firms to partner with, but get the big three right, and then let's build around the edges to make sure we can do well. Feed your winners, starve your losers, and keep going, keep iterating, keep trying to do better by your people. What I love about our client base and all the prospects we talk to, most companies really want to do the best they possibly can for the people.
Most.
In all the inflation and all the craziness of the world and all the competitive pressures, most companies really want to do right by their people. And that makes my job exciting.
I love that. And Jeff, last but not least, you look back on your life, you look back on your career, the different seasons, the different chapters, but you've had a forward progression of success in your career. Of course, you've had your failures and your missteps, but now at this stage of your life and your career, you have a son that survived cancer, a wonderful daughter. You built this incredible life and career here in the United States, Canada, and abroad. Jeff Williams, how do you define success?
Oh, man. I don't really know. I think it's this, and this is coming to me in real time. I've never been asked this exact question before. I think it's that you're still excited to get out of bed every morning and do what you're doing. Like if you have the energy, if I have the energy to be excited about what I am doing, that's success. And whether that's raking bunkers in a golf course, or whether that's leading a benefit administration company, or whether it's those wonderful people who are doing the work that makes such a difference in the world, or whether it's my wife who's built our family and who was a momcologist when Kevin was sick, like whatever it is, having the energy for the journey ahead, I think is what success is.
Love that take. Jeff Williams, thank you so much for joining us here and sharing your wisdom and your experience. Deeply appreciate you. Hang out for one moment here as we sign off. You guys can learn more. We'll link it up in the comments, all about Aptia. We'll link that up there. Connect with Jeff on LinkedIn. Where else could folks find you? Where could they connect? Where could they learn more? Did I get it all?
Aptia-group.com. Hit me up on LinkedIn. We can exchange texts. We can do whatever. Love to stay in touch.
Jeff, thank you so much for joining us. And everyone listening, if this show meant something to you, leave a review rating. It goes a long way. You know where to find out more at thepodcast.com. Follow us on all the social media channels. Subscribe, comment, and network. Remember, be good to yourself, be better to others, and catch us next week for another great episode of the podcast. Take care, everybody.
Wisdom is forever, but for us, it's time to go. Thank you for joining us. Luckily, we'll be back with our next episode soon, jam-packed with more incredible humans. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and sharing. To join the conversation, search the podcast on LinkedIn. And to catch up on past episodes and more info, please visit www.thepodcast.com.